Hello, I'm Bernard Hershkovich, the CEO of NetExperience, and welcome to the overview of OpenWifi, an amazing initiative driven by Telecom Infra Project. This is my fourth Wi-Fi company, and I believe OpenWifi will transform the way we make, buy, design, maintain, and use Wi-Fi networks. Wi-Fi industry continues to be on the roll, with massive new spectrum being allocated in many countries and Wi-Fi becoming a must-have technology. COVID-19 pandemic has increased the importance of Wi-Fi and accelerated harmonization of requirements for Wi-Fi at home, at work, and in public places. Open Wi-Fi is now open for business. A quick introduction of our company, NetExperience. We are a software company. We're a member of Telecom Infra Project. We're also a contributor and maintainer of the open source code, which is the foundation of Open Wi-Fi. In addition to the work we do on the open source part of Open Wi-Fi, we also provide a commercial platform based on Open Wi-Fi architecture targeting service providers. That's a full commercial product. It's tested with multiple hardware vendors, which are also members of TIP, and we provide the software, the support, the integration services. Given the demand of Open Wi-Fi architecture, we're in more than 20 trials around the world with flagship service providers, pretty much in most of the continents, in US, in Latin America, very good, Africa, Europe, and Asia. Open Wi-Fi brings strong innovation to our industry. It allows one platform, one architecture to support multiple hardware vendors. It also allows the same platform to support multiple use cases from one end of the spectrum to the other. So be it multiple dwelling units or SMBs, schools, hotels, industrial, enterprise, smart city, offload, they can all be served from the same architecture. That platform, that architecture is rich with APIs, so it can easily integrate into other systems. In our case, it's offered as a software as a service or can be licensed for large deployments. And all bring a low TCO, as in low total cost of ownership, which allows for profitability for the service providers and enlarge the market. From a software perspective, TIP Open Wi-Fi open source provides the access point software and the cloud reference design. So everything, all the features in the access point, embedded in the access points are coming as open source from TIP, and also a layer of connectivity in the cloud. In addition, companies like NetExperience can create full end-to-end stacks, and that's what we've done. So part of our stack, we have a wireless LAN controller, which has all the elements needed in a Wi-Fi controller, for example, automatic channel selection, automatic cell sizing, steering the client from one radio to another radio, from one access point to another, device profiling, and so on. The other kind of big building block, it's a management system, which needs to have support for large networks, configuration, profiles, of course, has to be able to support seamless network level upgrades, and a slew of analytics and dashboard and information, allowing the network operator to visualize, to analyze, to troubleshoot, and to plan the evolution of the Wi-Fi network. So all these building blocks come together and ride on top of the foundation, which is an open source foundation provided as an open source by TIP through the Open Wi-Fi initiative. A key enabler of Open Wi-Fi benefits is the hardware compatibility, which drives many use cases. So the ability to have multiple hardware vendors contributing to create a superset portfolio is amazing. And that's allowed by having a common set of requirements on the underlying technology. So the chipsets, the drivers, the amount of memory, the type of memory. But once these requirements are met, hardware partners, which are members of Telecom Infra Project, they can create variants and capabilities for many of the use cases. And when I was speaking before about one of the advantages of the OpenWifi platform is that it can support pretty much all the use cases in Wi-Fi. A lot of it's driven from our hardware partners. So you can have residential hardware, SMB hardware, wall mount access points for hospitality, and on and on. It can be indoor or outdoor. It can be various generations, 6 or 6E. It could be specialized type of hardware, which combines perhaps Wi-Fi and CBRS, or it can be even kind of like completely novel new cases. So it's a richness of the portfolio, and also the ability of the software to manage and control multiple providers in the same network, which is a key capability in OpenWifi, which I'm sure our service provider and MSP customers are going to value a lot. One powerful attribute of OpenWifi is its compatibility with Open Roaming. Open Roaming allows a service provider which deploys Wi-Fi and invests in the network and in acquiring certain venues, using simply one contract to gain access to many other potential customers and get additional revenue from offload applications or roaming. Let's bring it all together now and try to summarize what would be the benefits of OpenWifi for a service provider or an enterprise using Wi-Fi when they choose to use OpenWifi platform. So most of the cases, they'll be able to consolidate multiple platforms into one. They'll be able to buy from multiple hardware vendors. They'll have access to a number of features which are related to supporting large and complex networks, such as network automation, troubleshooting features, which avoid the necessity to send technicians on site. It can be offered as a SaaS platform or licensed for large installations. It's compatible with Open Roaming, and it's low cost, low hardware cost, low license fees, and low operating cost. Thank you for joining our overview of OpenWifi today, and happy to announce OpenWifi is open for business.
Hello, my name is Hugh Rees. I'm the VP of Business Development at NetExperience, and I'm going to do a quick talk today about the OpenWifi trials we have running, the deployments, and some lessons learned. So really, we're talking about the early adopters of OpenWifi. And I'm going to talk about types of service providers that are deploying right now, the vertical markets they serve, a couple of examples from around the world, the business models they employ and how we do business as NetExperience, and as I said before, some of the lessons learned. So the types of service providers that are deploying OpenWifi today are quite a variety, starting really with the kind of mid-sized Wi-Fi focused service providers. These will be folks that you'll be familiar with, like Boingo, for example. Secondly, developing country incumbents and competitive carriers. We're seeing a strong pull from developing countries, primarily because of the cost benefits associated with deploying OpenWifi. And then lastly, ISPs and managed service providers who are also looking to lower costs and improve manageability of multiple customer deployments. The vertical markets that have emerged initially, there are three vertical markets that have emerged. Public Wi-Fi, hotspots, indoor and outdoor mixed environments. This is very popular in developing countries with less than ideal 4G, 5G coverage and capacity. Second vertical market we see is education, specifically tertiary education like colleges and universities, but also moving into high school education as well. Again, developing countries are driving some of the adoption for open Wi-Fi in education. And thirdly, hospitality, which is not limited to developing countries at all. This is a worldwide opportunity that we've seen, including the United States and Europe. And other markets starting, but a little later than those three early markets. But we expect to see more trials and deployments in these markets in 2022 are enterprise and residential. A couple of examples. A university in Kenya is moving their classes and activities outdoors due to the pandemic. The vaccination rate in Africa is relatively low, and they're trying to move all their activities outside. So they needed a large quantity of outdoor APs. It had to be easy to manage, had to be scalable, and of course, low cost. They selected CIG and HFCL outdoor APs, and this is a great benefit, of course, of open Wi-Fi, allowing you to mix and match different vendors' access points within the open Wi-Fi framework. A second example is an ISP in Brazil, and this is the LATAM event, so it's very appropriate. They are trialing open Wi-Fi to cover areas not well served by 4G, 5G. And they are one of the first service providers worldwide to trial not just the open Wi-Fi, but the open Wi-Fi combined with the Wireless Broadband Alliance's open roaming. So this is quite an innovative approach. On the business models for most of these service providers, they're charging customers on a use basis, and they're using captive portals to authenticate those users. The exception is that Brazilian ISP that I mentioned before, which is using open roaming for authentication. And we expect this model to become more widely adopted in 2022 and beyond, because it's just so much easier for end users to not have to log in and agree to terms and conditions and those kind of things. On the NetExperience side, our business model supports both software as a service and licensing. All of our current customers are software as a service, and the licensing model really only makes sense for approximately 10,000 or so APs managed due to the complexity of installation and the DevOps requirements for a service provider cloud. But we expect it to move to that model for some of the large incumbents over the coming years. Some of the lessons learned, what we first learned is support is obviously very important, critically important, and NetExperience has fundamentally become the de facto support organization for the entire solution, both hardware and software. This makes sense as about 95 or 99% of the issues are software, not hardware related. And NetExperience has the expertise to diagnose these correctly and to determine if there is a potential hardware issue and bring the hardware vendor in if there is. Pricing needs to be very aggressive to significantly grow the market for Wi-Fi. So right now, it's got to be certainly less than 50% of traditional enterprise solutions, with a goal of reducing prices further over time. And then the third one, lessons learned, is the TIP community itself is invaluable in providing resources to support new potential customers. They're the open source repository, they have deep technical knowledge, they can help with feature priority, etc. So a really valuable resource for the end customers. And that's my summary for the NetExperience deployments and lessons learned. Thank you.